Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. So a week or two ago, I was introduced to a guy, Kevin Porter is his name. He wants to make the NHL, and he's 46 years old. He's a firefighter. He's a paramedic. He's a hockey player, and he's got a dream of playing hockey in his 40s. And I think it's kind of an inspiring dream because it's a story about fitness. It's a story about resilience. It's a story about effort. It's a story about never giving up that just inspired me. And the gentleman that introduced me to him and said, this is a story you got to hear, is Dan Bedanis. And Dan's a hockey nut and has been for a long period of time, did his share of playing hockey just a few years ago, and knows what it takes to be successful in hockey. So Dan, why don't you start off by telling us a little bit about why you thought Kevin Porter would be an interesting story for everyone to hear?
Kevin Porter is an interesting story for anyone looking for inspiration, motivation, guidance, and how to exceed the boundaries of their own thinking and their own self-imposed limitations. And what I mean by that is this: when you set a goal for yourself, depending on who you are, depending on your life circumstances, the intensity with which you go towards achieving that goal depends on a variety of circumstances. Well, Kevin has redefined the word intensity to the point where he has become relentless. He's become so relentless in terms of his drive and passion to succeed, in terms of making it as an NHL hockey player, that there's a company that actually did a 4-part docu-series called Relentless, the Kevin Porter story. It's on Hollywood Suites, and I'll tell you, it's worth watching. But here's the other part of it too. When you watch it, you go through and you see that Kevin, a few years, well, prior to the pandemic, of where he was at in terms of his hockey development, the fact that this man was single-minded in his pursuit of excellence towards making it as an NHL hockey player at 46 years old. But here's the thing. Well, back then he was maybe 42, 43, 44. Then the pandemic hit. But when you watch that, you realize that Kevin has met with a lot of resistance towards his dream. A lot of people were very negative. And some friends, and I say friends in quotes, said, maybe it's time to give back to hockey and give up on your dream and start coaching because you've got a lot to offer. Kevin took that as fuel for his fire to drive him passionately to succeed at higher levels than he even thought possible. He's undertaken contracts with great hockey trainers like Eddie Choi, Vanessa Crone, and several others to take him on the ice on a daily basis and improve his skills. He's undertaken Muay Thai, boxing, weightlifting on a daily basis. He invests in himself. People often ask, what is the best investment we could ever make? And of course, the answer is the investment in ourselves. And Kevin is a living embodiment of that.
Kevin, why are you doing all this?
Why not? My goal with hockey, at the onset of this journey, my goal is always to aspire to play at the highest level that I could. And I've never actually technically publicly came out and say, yes, I'm trying to make this team in the top league in the world. I've always said I'm trying to compete at the highest level that I can push my body, mind, and soul to compete at. And, I always said, whether that ended up being, the FHL, the FPHL, the SPHL, Europe, or the East Coast American Hockey League, or even above and beyond that. I've never publicly actually came out and said that. So I just want to set that straight. Because, you get a lot of people that they think they're, delusions of grandeur or whatnot. But I've always just kind of taken it one step at a time. And I figured, I got close. I went to an East Coast Hockey League main camp and I was the last one cut. So, to me, that was pretty good given the fact that I was an undrafted free agent. And, try to look at the progression, and I know what I'm capable of doing in any given circumstance. It's just, I think, and I'm not trying to downplay it. I try to keep myself really grounded and just focus on putting myself in a position where I'm confident that I could compete with any team, any league in the world at any time. So yeah, we'll just leave it at that.
We're chatting tonight with Kevin Porter, who has ambitions of playing professional hockey. We're going to take a break for some messages and come back more and hear a bit more about Kevin's Relentless story in just a minute. Stay with us, everybody. Welcome back to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Second and 60. We're chatting tonight with an aspiring professional hockey player. Kevin Porter is his name. And the surprising thing about this is he's 46 and he thinks he can make it into the higher echelons of hockey. Kevin, tell me a little bit about your story. Did you play hockey as a kid?
Absolutely. Probably started skating on bob skates or gliding on bob skates before I could walk in Kitchener, Ontario. Dad had me on him right away. Dad's a big hockey guy. So, like most Canadian kids, it sounds so cliche, but it's so true. And lived in a hockey hotbed, Kitchener, which still is. I played my entire life. So.
And did you, aspire to be a professional hockey player at the time? And how far did you go?
Well, absolutely not. It was just a fun game when I was a kid, and it's still a fun game as a grown man and adult. And it's really funny the way it's kind of evolved for me. And then, a bit of a break due to some family tragedy when I was 16, and then it's just picked back up. It's gained a lot of steam. So, no, I guess when I was really, really young, I always loved hockey. I had every hockey jersey in the NHL probably growing up from my parents. And at Halloween, I was a hockey player, and at Christmas, I was a hockey player, and, just like any other kid, and loved the game, but never really thought about making it to the big leagues.
But did you play like AAA or Junior A or anything like that?
No, I never played AAA. I never played Junior A. I played AA and single A growing up. I was a little guy, and back when I was a young teenager, you had to be a bigger kid to be playing AAA, and I didn't have that. I was always real speedy, fast, aggressive, but I didn't have the size factor, I don't think, at the time. And I was happy playing AA and single A. And when I was 16, I had some family tragedy, and I lost my mom and my nana within 3 months. My nana died of cancer, and my mom got killed in a construction accident, March 31st, 1992. So, hockey took a little bit of a break there. I fast forward to the fall of 92. I was trying out for a feeder team. Like, it was my overage, basically major midget year. And I had my hand broken on a slash at the Kitchener Auditorium, my favorite rink to play in growing up. And so I kind of put the brakes on hockey for a while. And then I went back to school a few years later to become a paramedic and firefighter. And then, my hockey career, if you will, I guess it started back up with the fire department a bit, playing with the guys in tournaments. And then, fast forward to 2010, I had the accident at work, and that just, it was just a life-altering moment for myself.
What happened at work?
I beg your pardon?
What happened at work in 2010?
2010, I was working, I think it was a Sunday, and we went to a marijuana grow-up fire, unbeknownst to us at the time, in Brampton. And as we made entry through the front door, my partner and I, we fell through the main floor into the basement. So pretty scary, very scary moment. Your life flashes before your eyes. I can look back on it now, and everything worked out. But at the time, my mom died in a fall at work, and now I'm, falling with a coworker and friend of mine. And it really altered how I viewed life, in its entirety, in my job and all kinds of different things. And I think the ride to the hospital in the ambulance, or the paramedic service that I also worked for, and just my mind was going a million miles an hour. And I think I decided I wanted to give hockey another shot. So.
Really? So on the way to the hospital, you decided you want to give hockey another shot?
Yeah, you wouldn't believe how many different thoughts go through your mind. I mean, I literally saw my life flash in front of my eyes when I fell. And I think anybody would in that situation. I've told this story multiple times, and, you know, I'm sure, you know, some people are rolling their eyes at me telling it again, but until it happens to you, you know, it is life altering, and it changes the way you process life.
And so it's like life is short kind of realization. Is that what happened?
Absolutely. And, you know, working as a paramedic and a firefighter, I work for 3 emergency services in the GTA. Okay. I have 20 years in each service, and not to mention my own, you know, family history, things that I've seen and witnessed. You understand the life is very short, but, you know, as soon as you go through something like that yourself, it really hits home. And I knew I had to not make changes, but there were certain things that I wanted to undertake and try to do and accomplish, and that I realized I missed so much. So yeah, it was full throttle from that point. So
tell us about the full throttle. What'd you do?
well, I kind of started to look at how I was going to get back into this. And I initially had gone to Journey to Excel at the MasterCard Center. It was called the MasterCard Center at the time, and then employed the help of Adrian LaMonaco, who still runs the hockey school there, him and Jennifer Botterill. And I started training with Adrian. I was with them for 5 years, training, going to free agent camps, trying to play where I could, you know, with work and shift work. I mean, it was challenging because I couldn't just give up my jobs to go play somewhere. I mean, that would have, it would have probably served me well also, but, you know, when you're looking at it, it's a huge financial decision that I had to make as well. I had a mortgage, and all kinds of financial obligations. It just wasn't easy to quit 3 jobs to go make a couple $100 a week playing minor league hockey. So I was very tactful with it, how I went about trying to get tryouts. And when I went to Sweden to play semi-pro hockey in 2016, 2017. I ended up taking a leave of absence from work, right? So that enabled me to go to Sweden. Took some time off work. I was in school for fire service management at the time, and I could, do my schooling in the morning. We had practice in the evening, games on the weekends. So that was kind of the kickstart to get back into hockey.
And playing in Sweden, what were you, 15, 20 years older than the rest of the guys on the team?
Yeah, I think some of them could have been my kids, but it was okay. I mean, it was a lot of fun. They kind of look at the age thing a little differently over in Europe, and I'm a skater, so big ice will skate, right? So being on the Olympic pad all the time, practicing and in games, it was I was in my glory. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. Beautiful.
Hockey is different than other sports, though, in that you're on the ice for less than a minute for a typical shift, and so it's a sprint nonstop, is it not? And can a 40-year-old body take that?
Well, a 46-year-old body, absolutely, because how do you train for it, right? So hockey is technically an anaerobic sport with some aerobic capacity as well. And like I said, I think we touched this on our last chat. It's how you train for it. 35 to 40 seconds probably is a good indicator of how long you should be out there, or you'll be getting to know the butt. Your butt will know the bench real well, I think, from a number of coaches. But it's how you train for it. And me personally, I'm into martial arts big time. I do Muay Thai, grappling. So my conditioning is to a point where, if I have to stay out for a minute or 2 or 3, it's not really that big of a deal.
But, most people think that sort of the prime hockey years are 19 to 26.
Based on what, though?
Based on athletic ability, and that we all get old.
We do. I think people have different athletic ceilings. You can look at Patrick Marleau, Joe Thornton, Corey Perry. There's a lot of guys that are older, and while they're still 10 years junior to me, but when I look at energy systems and how to train properly for sport, the recovery, the nutrition, the types of training that we have access to nowadays, I think it gives you an edge, and you're able to kind of circumvent the age thing to some degree. Now, I'm not going to lie to you if I say every day I feel awesome. Well, you know what? The 25-year-old guys don't feel awesome every day. Hockey's a tough sport. But when I look at what I do personally in working 3 emergency services jobs, shift work, and the training on top of it, and I'm progressing, what could I do if I didn't have to work those 3 jobs? So, I don't make any excuses. I've got a motto. It's no excuses, just results. And you just put your head down and do it. And I think at the end of the day too, Brian, a lot of it comes from right here, right? And how much you're actually willing to take the discomfort and the lack of sleep. And, you might've had something, emotional on your mind that could technically affect your training, but you have to be able, just to kind of overcome that. And, like I said, no excuses, just results. So
talk a little bit about the training though, because I think a lot of people don't realize that I had lunch at a golf tournament at the beginning of the season once with a coach of an NHL hockey team. And it was interesting because what he was saying is that you can tell that first day, no question, the guys that took their training in the off season seriously versus the guys that did not. And he described how some players, they may have had nice cottages, but they worked out on the dock every day. They went to the local arena and skated every day. They ran every day, all summer long. And others that didn't take it as seriously, and they weren't ready to play hockey. And also, big concerns that people had during the close down during COVID-19, that people hadn't played for a long time and were just gonna not be NHL level hockey players because of the lack of unbelievable training. Tell us a little bit about your training.
So when the pandemic hit, right? So it's crazy. We have to think in years now about how long the pandemic's been going on almost. But if I can rewind to, February 2020, I was getting some games with Port Huron. I had a couple other offers to play some different leagues in the US, and we're just getting the ball rolling, and then COVID hit. And I'll tell you, after putting in so much work, just to get to that point, there was no way I was going to let all that training, blood, sweat, and tears, if you will, go to waste. So got an Amazon. I bought a Schwinn Airdyne bike, which if you've never used a Schwinn Airdyne bike, or we call it the Devil's Tricycle, the fan bike, it's one of the most horrific pieces of the cardio equipment to use. It's a leg burner, it's a lung burner. And I bought one of these things on Amazon, and it actually came on the day of the anniversary of my mom's passing. It came on March 31st, 2020. And I put that sucker in the basement, and I put my hockey gear on, and I rode the thing almost every other day. And I did sprints. I put on playlists, music, things that get me going, Rocky music, Tragically Hip, Cochise. I forget the band's name now. Anyways, the song's called Cochise. It's a real humdinger. And, I just pushed myself, and I pretended like I was getting on the ice. What else are you going to do? You going to lie there and roll over and die because the rinks are closed? It was not going to happen for me. It was just not an option. So that was the first thing I did. The second thing,
every second day for how long?
Once. No,
but like for an hour, for 5 minutes, for 5 hours?
15 to 20 minutes, right? I'd break it down and sprint in intervals, because hockey is all intervals, right? So, Brian, you and I are the fourth line guys. We might get 7 to 8 minutes a period if we like our coach, or if the coach likes us rather. You're on the top line pair, or the top line pairing D, you might be hauling 20 to 25 minutes a game, right? Plus overtime, playoffs, we have extra periods. So what I would do is I would set on the bike, I can set different time intervals. So I would do like a 20-second sprint, 10-second rest. One day, another day I'd do a 30-second sprint, a 1-minute rest, to kind of, it would mimic me doing a shift, coming off on the bench, recover, get the heart rate down, and then ready to go out on the ice again. For me, this is probably one of the best investments I could have made in myself through the pandemic. And I'm just going to come out and say this. I actually came out of the pandemic probably in better shape, because I was forced to adapt, evolve, and overcome to the crappy situation we were in, and it was just, I didn't have a choice. The choice was to sink or swim, and failure was just not an option.
But hockey's not just cardio; it's shooting. It's
Absolutely.
defense.
I mean, there's certain things you have access to. To me, it's a lot easier to lose your cardio base than it is to lose your snapshot, or how to take a pass and throw a pass and shoot on a goalie. So having said that, I have the green biscuits, right? Stick handling in the driveway. At work in my downtime when we weren't on calls, I always had hockey sticks in the car, gloves. I have a piece of, the sheet ice, the plastic ice. That was with me all the time in the vehicle or at home in the garage, the driveway downstairs. And I was also fortunate. I had access to a gym for my Muay Thai. So I was able to stay in very good condition and probably leapfrog some of my competition, or guys who I thought I might have been going up with, against at a camp. So I just got the job done.
What do your friends and family think?
You know what I mean? I love them all, but as long as you support me, and it's, I think I've gotten a lot of support. I think that some people probably thought, what's he doing? Is he not focused on other things in life? But I'm able to focus on things and put them in boxes, right? So I can, focus on one thing and give my 100% to that and close that box and focus on the next thing. And when I'm in a hockey practice, nothing else matters. The phone's on do not disturb. Doesn't matter who's calling. If it's unimportant, they'll call back, or I'll call them back when practice is over. When I'm in the gym, same thing. When I'm at the Muay Thai club, same thing. I mean, when I'm on a call in the fire department or paramedic, I'm not answering my phone. So, I can kind of learn how to put things in boxes and just kind of focus. It's not for everybody what I'm doing. It's not easy. It never was. It was never meant to be. If it was easy, everyone would be doing it. And some people understand it and some just don't get it, and they'll just never get it. And I'm okay with that. It's, you don't have to like it. You don't have to understand it. Like, I'm the one who's doing the work at the end of the day. So, and I think it's paid off, in spades in a lot of senses for me. So.
We're chatting with Kevin Porter, an aspiring professional hockey player at the age of 46. We're going to take a break for some messages and come back more with Kevin in just a minute. Stay with us, everybody. Welcome back to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. We're chatting tonight with the subject of a series called Relentless, Kevin Porter, who is relentless in his desire to be a professional hockey player, in his 40s, 46 actually. And sounds like his workout regimen is unbelievable. His desire and passion are unbelievable. Kevin, relentless. Where did that word come from? Where did that descriptor come from? Is it accurate?
I would say 100% so. Where it came from, I believe it was pulled from a TSN 1050. Not an interview, but a chat that some of the gentlemen had. And I believe that's where that term was pulled from. They were right. Insane, that I am relentless, because anything less to me is failure. I don't believe in failing yourself at anything in life. So, I guess it's a good term. I didn't, when I was presented with the idea to do the documentary, we had no idea what it was going to be called, how long things were going to go. If it was going to be 1 episode, 4 episodes, it could be 5, it could be 6 episodes based on, what transpires next. But yeah, I just, I guess I don't think about it too much. I just do it. And if somebody wants to say I'm relentless, I guess that's a good descriptor, but it's a passion for me, and I'm all in. So,
Kevin, try to educate us. Lots of us have dreams. Lots of us have passions. We want to be a rock star. We want to be a tennis player. We want to be a great golfer. We want to be a great business person, whatever that dream might be. But you found this secret of being relentless and not giving up. Where does it come from? How do you develop relentlessness?
Well, I think I can go back and see what I touched on before. A lot of it comes from here.
But what do you mean
But
by
it's
comes from
also-
here? What do you mean comes from the heart? Everyone's got a heart. How's your heart different? How's your,
I guess just by doing things that other people won't do, right? And the early morning workouts, the late night workouts, just grinding to the nth degree, like pulling out all the stops.
okay, I understand that, I accept that, but where does that come from? Was your father or your mother or someone that you looked up to, a mentor, someone that showed you that? Like where does it come from?
Well, like with my mom, I was 16 when my mom passed away. So I only got to know her. I had 16 very short years to get to know her. And she was a very hard worker, single mom for half of those 16 years that I knew her. And so I think I had a lot of genes, I guess, maybe come that way. My father was also a very strong-willed hard worker, but I think just different role models I had growing up as a kid, looking at guys like Mark Messier, the Ultimate Warrior from wrestling. I don't think a lot of people knew Warrior off screen. Jim is his name, Helwig, and he did a lot of motivational speaking, conversation with youth about, staying on the right path and staying focused and not listening to naysayers and, just forging through everything. So I think those are two gentlemen that I really were influential. And then I think you just owe it to yourself to do it. And why can't you can look at yourself in the mirror for motivation and just decide, I want to try to do this, and it doesn't matter what stands in my way. I'm going to try to get the job done. So, yeah, that's it in a nutshell.
It's interesting. There's this statistic that I've always found a little bit surprising that you sort of touched on. 12 different presidents in the United States lost a parent, and numerous other very successful people have lost parents. And it's almost as if, and I hate to say this, but it's almost as if the tragedy ended up being a real catalyst to their ultimate success. What do you think of that?
Well, it's very interesting. I can't say that I'm surprised at all. Unfortunately, being one of those statistics, I could completely relate with all those folks to that, situation. And, I've tried to do a bit of counseling myself with kids that have lost parents and keep them on the right track and guide them and show them the way. Yeah, it definitely affects you profoundly. And, for myself, my mom's birthday is Christmas Eve, right? So every year at Christmas, it's a reminder of what could have been. So, it is a massive part of the process for me. But I look at it to propel me and not bring me down. I could have gone down two very different paths growing up. And fortunately, I think I took a decent one, although I wouldn't want mom to know all the things I've done in my life. She probably does now, but it's a very defining moment when you lose a parent at any age, but especially as a youngster. And it definitely helped me become the man I've become.
So it's interesting. Malcolm Gladwell, in one of his books, talked about the death of a mother, of a father, being a spur, a propellant that sends them catapulting into life. Because they're on their own, they're forced to invent. They're forced to invent and persist and chart their own way. And he actually had a term for it. He called them eminent orphans. 1/3 of all presidents in the United States have lost a parent. 67% of all British prime ministers have lost a parent. But then the other side of things is also true. The number of prisoners in prison that have lost a parent is 3 times the regular average. So it seems like if you lose a parent, it's either really bad or really good.
Apparently.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And, it's I looked at it, the way my mom passed away too. It was in a construction accident. And, for myself, it was like, well, how do I help avenge that death? Like, in a way, right? Like, I'm not going to swoop down from the sky like Superman and save somebody, but what can I do in my life to try to help prevent or help somebody who's in that same type of predicament? So, I always wanted to be a fireman and a paramedic growing up as a kid too. So mom used to sit me down and I used to watch Emergency till, it was time to go to bed, old reruns of Emergency. And, so that was a huge catalyst for me getting into emergency services. And then when she passed away, I was like, I got to do this. Right. So I was of the same mindset with getting on the paramedic service and the fire service when I was young as I am with hockey now. It's really not, like, to me, it's not earth shattering what I'm doing. It's just, I would be doing this if I wanted to be the CEO of a company. I would be doing this if I wanted to apply to MAC to go to med school. Like, I would be operating the same way. Right.
Still be relentless.
Well, absolutely. It doesn't matter what career path I want to do, or, if I want to hang up my fire helmet and paramedic stethoscope tomorrow and get into real estate, I would undertake it the same way. So to me, it's normal to be like this, to do this. It's just who I am as a person. And down the road, when I get into skills development, coaching, whatever path I decide to go down, I'll put the same effort in, because I want the same results. It doesn't matter what I'm doing. Like, I want results. I want to do well, right? No excuses, just results. And to me, results are fun. Getting the right results, in hockey, everyone wants the same thing, right? At a certain level, everybody wants the same. Everyone's chasing the same thing, whether you're a coach in the East Coast, whether you're a player in the East Coast, a coach in the A, or a player in the A, or in the N, everyone's chasing the same thing. So, just how do you break it down? How do you adapt, overcome, and evolve? Dissect what you have to do, what you're good at, what you're not good at, how to get better at what you're good at, and how to get better at what you're not good at. So it's, it never ends. I'll never be happy. Like, I'm satisfied, but I'll never be fully happy, because I feel that makes you complacent. And then I always like to feel like I'm running scared.
Running scared.
I mean, like, I could break the NHL lap time tomorrow, and I would still, like, I wouldn't be like, I would be like, well, that's okay, Kev, you knocked off your 0.41 seconds that you're trying to do. But I wouldn't be like, I'd be happy, but I wouldn't be like over the moon, because I still haven't achieved my objective, right? That might put me a little closer, because people might say, oh, wow, it's quick. But I haven't actually achieved my objective, which is playing at the highest level that I can attain. So I like to run scared. I like to feel uncomfortable, but know I'm doing well, but still feel like at the end of the skate, like Eddie Choi, my skills coach, will say, well, it was a great skate today. I'm like, yeah, it was okay.
So never being satisfied, running scared, relentless, is unquestionably one of your biggest traits and strengths. But the other word that's come up a lot in this conversation that I've heard about you is that what your passion is, that you're passionate about playing hockey, and that you've got this passion. And when you talk about it coming from the heart, I think that's got to be passion. And I've interviewed a bunch of different people over the course of the last little while, particularly during COVID, that have really given thought to life and what they're passionate about. And, some have quit corporate jobs and become filmmakers, and some have become artists, and some have become performers, and whatever that is, they've changed what it is that they wanted to do in life. How did you figure out what your passion was? And how do you think people should figure out what their passion is?
I think for myself, with the hockey thing, I always knew I was passionate about it. When I was younger, I didn't have the means to make that happen, right? So financially, I didn't have the personal support. I didn't have the drive, because my mind was, thinking about mom, thinking about, now all of a sudden I'm, there's 4 kids in assignment attached with a mom, or with my father, my stepmom. And I'm thinking about how do I get another part-time job to buy a new pair of shoes or to buy, because everything was tight, money was tight, because now there's, 4 kids in a house. And so at the time, I knew that I loved it, but I just think everything just happened at the right time for me. I'm just meant to be doing it at this time in my life. And, if I could rewind everything and let's say I had all the time, money, and resources and know-how back then as I have now, like, who knows what our conversation would be like right now. It's just the way it's happened for me. And I guess it's just the way it was meant to happen. And, here we are. So, and I think through the work, you become more passionate. Like, you start to see incremental gains and results, which just drives the engine more. And then you just want to keep coming back for more and more and more. I don't know if you could use Jeff Bezos as an example, but the guy starts this little bookstore in his garage and whatever he was selling, and it just picks up momentum, and it's just turned into the machine it is today. So I think with myself, it was just being really honest with my abilities, breaking it down, attacking it day by day. And when you start to see the progress and results, and you're getting, decent feedback back from coaches, and you're seeing things on video, you're shooting video, you're watching, studying, analyzing, it just built momentum, and it just was like a tidal wave for me. I just love the process.
So a lot of people would ask someone like you, what would you talk about to a teenager or a young adult, and talk about relentless and passion to them, because that's when, a lot of people have that opportunity to work hard and become a NHL hockey player, something like that. But the interesting thing about you is that you're doing it in your 40s. And, a lot of people in their 40s, it's not that they give up, but they, they've got kids, they got a mortgage, they're just getting by. Has life passed you by? I don't know, but they're just sort of, they're in the straightaway. And they're not going to take big risks. So what would you tell someone that has a dream that's 42 or 45 years old?
Well, I think regardless of what it is, right, whether it's hockey, a business venture you want, back to school, I mean, you've got to have some sort of a plan. It's really easy for people to say, oh, just quit what you're doing and go give it a shot, because let's face it, I mean, there's so many schools of thought on it, right? If you have a plan B, you're never going to get plan A. But I guess I'm more of a, conservative that way. I like to have backup plans, fail safes, plan it out, think about what you want to do, write it down. Like I'll write my goals down, pros and cons, and then come up with a decision based on that. And then I won't act on it. And then I'll think about it. I'll go back and look at it again. And, it helps you come to a conclusion that way. But, I'd say you look at your goal, set a a year plan, 6 months, 2 years, and, divide it up. Okay, what am I good at? What do I need to work on? Don't worry about things like, what are my chances of doing this? Like anything that will dissuade you from doing it. Like people will say, well, what are your chances of making it to the NHL? Well, hey, listen, if I would have made it to the East Coast team and had a good showing, I might have gotten, invited to an AHL camp. And now once you're rolling with AHL guys, now if I get 15, 20 goals, now you're knocking on, the next door. So, don't look at things that dissuade you, right? Even if they do seem unrealistic to a lot of people, I think you just have to break down what you want to do bit by bit and just, carve out your own path and have some backup plans. Obviously a slush fund, money is good. And tackle it that way.
Relentless, passion, and don't be dissuaded from what your dream is. Kevin Porter, Relentless man. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Brian.
Well, that's our show for tonight, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us. So really appreciate it. Kevin Porter, I hope you make it to the NHL, man.